when you fail, like you start to get afraid of the moment to fail. Like you shouldn't be afraid to fail. You should always try to, of course, win everything you do, because if your mindset is not that you're going to win it, why are you even there? It's just stupid to be there if you don't think you're going to win it. That needs to be your mindset all the time. But if you're afraid of actual failure, like for some people, when they actually fail, they dig themselves so deep. And I actually see they quit off, like goes 2 years and then they start quitting, and then they don't, because they're so afraid of failing that they don't find it anymore fun. I don't take it that hard. Yes, it's Olympics and there will be the biggest honor in my life to win. But at the same time, like there's other thousands people that are doing the same event as me and they're trying as hard as I am doing. What an actual journey to just be able to go to Olympics and be there and compete for your country. And what an honor, and actually what a fulfillment actually will feel in your life that you've actually achieved that dream. I mean, the Olympics is crème de la crème. It's the biggest thing you can do, and actually you should enjoy it and you shouldn't be afraid of failing in the Olympics, because it will happen to everyone except one person who wins.
Yeah.
That one to achieve the goal.
Welcome to episode number 7. I am your host, Sebastian Engstrom, and today, Kim Amb, Olympic javelin thrower, joins us. He is incredibly simplistic, and I just love the way he approaches high performance. It doesn't have to be so serious. It doesn't have to be so hard. And it's okay if you fail. We go into this mindset and so much more about what it's like in his shoes to be an Olympic javelin thrower and who he is as an individual. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation and our time together, and I'm sure you will as well. As high performers, we get after it, but that has its toll. Eventually, our mind, our body, and on our soul. This is special time for you to connect back to what is true, to your heart, to your soul, and let go of control. I'm gonna send someone else love and light, and let their light shine bright. First, put your hand on your heart, on the one on your stomach. You're gonna breathe in for 10 times in, 10 times out. And you're gonna say, I love you the first 5. And as you breathe out, you say, I love you in your name. And then I forgive you in your name. The last 5, you're gonna send one person love and light. So 1, 2, 3, breathe in and close your eyes. Say, I love you in your name. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in. Now forgive you in your name silently as you breathe in. Out. In. Out. In. Out. In. Out. In. Out. And now you're gonna see one person in front of you. Anyone who comes to mind. This person has this beautiful light around them and they're just loving life, because everything they've ever imagined is coming their way. Life is simple, life is blissful, and they're happy because they're helping people. They're serving people. Everything in their past is in their past. Everything is in their future is in their future. Because they're right here, right now. They love themselves. They have forgiven themselves. And so have you. And so have you. Kim a freaking rock star when it comes to javelin thrower, but also a rock star as a person, and just an incredible guy that I grew up with. We went to high school together, and it's been a while since we caught up, and now we just went through a self-love, a forgiveness practice, and sending light to someone else. It's something that you probably never experienced with me or saw coming before. So I'm just gonna leave the floor open and let you.
Yeah, I mean, like, absolutely, it's different. That was not you when we grew up together, but I mean, it's nice. I hope to also practice gratitude and these things. It's so powerful, and my girlfriend, she's a big believer of this, and always positive thinking about everything. It's and it's crazy when you actually start to practice and really believing in it. Things just start to come to you, which is amazing. Just by, like, before I wouldn't believe in it because I feel like it's a little ridiculous. But when you actually start to get into it a little bit, things start to roll your way, and it's quite cool, actually. But I mean, like, thank you for those words, and can say I feel exactly the same about you. I mean, you were one of the most dedicated persons I know when I was growing up. Like, you were so dedicated to the basketball, and you lived your whole life like really straight to become an extremely good basketball player before you went to States. I realized that fuck, this is never gonna happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I mean, we have some really fun memories back in the days, and it's sad that, of course, you live on the other side of the world now. I would love to hang out more, but we see. Hopefully one day you come back.
Yes, that's the goal.
Yeah.
It's strange to hear someone who went to your level of competing at the Olympics saying that I had such immense dedication to the game of basketball, and it makes me like, oh, well, who am I? Like, what do I know about that? But there's a reason, I guess, why I'm on the path that I'm on, and today, and why. I mean, the Safina Code, what the company is, and the podcast is, just what you said in the beginning, is I used to think all these, what I used to have, my external drive and external force, has now also developed into what you see behind me. So there's the peacock, and then there's the wave. So the peacock is the feminine, it's the female, and the woman, and the male is the wave, and really embracing more of that softer, that feminine side, and going into, okay, well, I don't always need to act so hard or push so hard. A lot of these things can come to me, and I'm going to be a more integrated, just incredible human being if I embrace the softer, the more understanding, the gentle, all right, well, what we talked about and what we did before, let me visualize and feel into, what do I want my future to be like? What do I want my day to be like? Instead of just, I'm this tough man, and I'm going to prove this, and I'm going to prove that. And really, it was Sophia, so my wife, that really got me onto that. And just like you, what you said is, I was skeptical towards that before, and part of it is just the manly, masculine toughness stuff.
I think so too.
Yeah, and especially becoming a father, I'm more in touch with my inside and my feminine side. That sounds strange, but more so than ever before. But I'm saying that from just realizing how love and patience is such a big part of life, and if we don't incorporate it, it becomes a very jagged and edgy and uncomfortable life. You can do it
Yeah.
maybe in your youth and for a few years, but eventually it will not work.
No, no, but I agree with you, and I think it has something to do with growing up too. Like when you're young and you're growing up to be the person or the man or woman you want to be. Like you don't know, you just because you have no clue of what's going to happen or what type of person you would like to be. So, and I think it's because you're a man, you're supposed to be manly and tough about everything. But when you actually become comfortable in yourself, you start to realize these other sides also, which is really making like a giving you a gold star in your everyday life. But yeah, but like you said, when you became a father, and I'm also a father, and I'm actually waiting for my second one. He is
Ah,
gonna come in like,
congrats! Wow.
yeah, in like 2 weeks. It's any day now, actually. So my girlfriend, she just packed her bag, hospital bag today, and but this is the things you had no clue you could feel, and the emotions. So it's but I think also when you become comfortable with yourself and you kind of know in which direction you go, then I don't know, I think the feminine side, as you said, it kind of creeps up on you, and you start to enjoy it.
Well put. um, there was one thing that I think was amazing about you early on was how javelin throwing and training, we deeply connected that. We always connected on that. But when it came to school, you're like, all right, I'm doing it. But I don't care too much for it. When it comes to professional career, I have my javelin throwing. That's what I'm gonna do. And it was. I always had this. Oh, I need to prove this. I need to prove that. I need to have this title. I need to make this amount of money. But you're like, no, like very early on, like you knew what you were doing. That was it. You didn't need to do anything professionally or prove anything to anyone. Like, do you mind going into that and even talking about your journey through that?
Yeah, like I mean, like school has never been my favorite thing. Like the best thing with school was sport class. That was the best thing.
Yes.
Hanging out with friends, of course. But yeah, like I never enjoyed school very much. Like I'm dyslexic, so I have a little bit hard time reading. And of course, I always found it like a big struggle to like learn that way, because I always thought it was so hard. My best friend, Jonathan, that I was living with in high school, he was this crazy reading head. Like he didn't need to study for shit, and I had to like fight for every class pretty much. But sport, this is something I'm always really good at. Doesn't matter if it's playing football or javelin or hockey or whatever. I always, I was good at it. And like I started with like track when I was 6 years old, and I loved it ever since. And when it come to like the javelin, I know I had a really great technique. Like I have really easy to take the instructions, and like I have very easy to get technique right in sports in general. Like I get the point quite quickly, and it's something with training that is just so rewarding. Like you don't need to think about anything when you train. Like you can have issues. I'm not saying I have it, but you can have issues in your everyday life. But when you're training, your mind is just on zero, just because you're pushing, and it's just the most amazing, rewarding feeling when you're actually doing the training. And when when it was why like choose javelin really was, my father, he was a javelin thrower when he was young. Like he was quite good at national level. Like he stopped quite early when he was 19 or something. He moved from one small place in Sweden to Stockholm and started the police academy. And then he kind of, life took over and he didn't pursue the dream, kind of what he wanted to do. So he has always been always encouraged me to always, he said, you know, I think you're going to be great in this. And I think you should push it as hard as you want, of course, but he said, you should really go for it. This is one thing in my life I really regret, that I didn't pursue this. And he said, I know I was talented, but you should pursue this if you want to, of course. And yeah, I kind of did. So, but what you say, of course, with school, like I think that school is extremely important, and you know, the titles and everything, but you know, I think when I'm done with my career in sport, I think I will do something in that field, kind of in, I don't say it's going to be in track, but it will be probably something physical. And then I have quite a great base to actually do anything there. So I just kind of figured that it's just going to solve itself in the end.
That's amazing. And I'm bringing it back to what you say, your mind is zero when you train and when you throw. And that's so true. And it's such a simple concept in itself. And I think that is, now that I've done quite a bit of reading and exploring and different concepts of meditation, philosophy, and deeper like spiritual work and so forth. And I'm realizing some of the deeper spiritual work and when you can become just in a Zen mode is when you play sports. Like that is when I've experienced some of the most, you can say, spiritual moments. Is I am truly one with the moment and I am in flow state and everything is amazing. Like I feel amazing. I am amazing. And I'm just loving life and everything in it. And it's exactly what you were describing. And that's one of, I think, your most incredible characteristics, is that you are an incredibly present person. And you just know, hey, I'm just enjoying life and life will work itself out. And I think that's why it always does for you, because you keep that mindset and you keep that presence. So how has that journey been? Like, do you feel like it's always been like that through your throwing career? I know it's so heavy technique based, and that was going to be one of my questions. How did you get into that? Because I'm naturally, after I started playing, I was decent at sports, but then when I started playing basketball, I really found a knack and a love for it, and my skills for other sports started being elevated because I became good at basketball. I started getting a better kinesthetic understanding and a brain and muscle and body connection overall. And that transferred into multiple different sports. Javelin was not one of them. I am terrible at it. And it's one of those things that I have pride in, and I love that I can pick up pretty much any sport and I'm good at it. But javelin throwing is freaking hard. And I suck at it. Like but that, in short, like how did you, throughout your throwing career, do you feel like you've always been able to maintain that flow state and just like, oh, I enjoy it, because it is such a heavy technique sport and it can be off one day and on the next day. How is that?
I mean, yeah, like you said, like javelin is extremely much technique and timing. Like if it doesn't go, if it doesn't go in symmetry, the technique and the timing, nothing happens. Like you can be as physical as humanly possible and you can be fast as humanly possible, but if you can't put these things together at the right moment, nothing is going to happen. And I mean, like, I'm definitely not the most physical guy in the javelin in our community, or like maybe I don't have the like strongest arm or anything, but what I'm really good at, it's like putting the things together, kind of work with what I have, because I'm not the tallest guy, you know, I'm only 180 centimeters tall, so I'm quite short. I mean, like ideally you would say that throwers should be, you know, quite tall, because the taller you are, the more like range of motion you get, longer arm and so on. but somehow I managed to work it pretty good still, even if I'm short. But you know, like javelin is a really, really tough technique, a really tough sport in that way that you have this javelin which is almost 3 meters long, and you somehow you need to get it in the right direction, and that's mostly what people struggle with. You know, for you, for example, even if you can throw a rock really far or a like a football or something, it doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna throw the javelin really well. Like it's the timing and timing and technique that really needs to go together. And you know, this is one thing that you will learn it, of course, if you have some sort of like throwing skill, like you can throw, like it just will take time, take a lot of time. But you know, if you take I don't know, actually it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, because they usually throw pretty much they throw similar distances in the beginning if they never tried it before. You know, I would say around like 25 meters. That would be the distance they throw. But if you really get into it and start to learn the technique, you will improve extremely quick. Absolutely. And I mean, when you come up to the distances, my personal best is 86.50, which is it's quite okay. I would say like 90, then you're superstar, then you're really good. But close, but not there yet. But yeah, like
And
I don't
the
know,
like do you remember, so the last Olympics, what was how far was the winning throw?
in the last Olympics was 90 meters. Olympics before that was 84.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I mean, like that's the thing. Like I'm up there. Pretty much, I would say everyone there's up there is pretty much almost as like everyone is similarly good. It's just depending who has the best day that day to get everything together. Because of course, like you know, Olympic, it's the biggest thing you can do as an athlete in this sport, at least. And this is more than just a competition, because this is something you've been dreaming of since you were a little kid. This is everything you're working towards in your whole career, pretty much. And you need to put it together that day, which is extremely hard. I mean, we're talking nerves over your ears and adrenaline, which is rushing so freaking fast in your body you can't handle it. And somehow you need to stay cool in your mind and just put these things together that you do in the practice. And I would say it's one guy who actually managed to do that, and that's the guy who wins. The rest are, you know, losers. No, because normally, like, yeah, like one guy put it together and the rest feel disappointed because they couldn't do it that day. But yeah, I guess that's the charm with the sport, in any sport, really.
So how do you prepare for that?
For Olympics?
Yeah.
Or
How did you do that?
yeah, yeah, the many years, of course, of training. But
Yeah.
I don't know, like how to prepare. Like, yeah, that's the thing. Like somehow it goes from being a dream to somehow becoming a reality, which is quite weird, and you don't really realize when it's happening, because you're in the match, and suddenly it's like when the Olympic game was, because I've done 2 Olympic games. I did London and I did Rio. So when I did London, I was 21, that was the first year I started to get good. Like I came up on world level throwing, and I did my first like championship, like European championships. And then suddenly I just got elected to go to Olympics, and I didn't really realize like what was going on and what a big deal it actually was. And you go there and you're so focused on what you're going to do, and when it's over and someone asks you, how was it? You're like, I don't remember shit. Like,
Yeah.
I don't remember anything, which was so weird, because I was so focused on what I was going to do there. So you don't really enjoying, being there, because you're nervous and you're excited, and you're like, because this is the biggest thing. Of course, I remember things. It's not that, but you know, you can't really take it in as you maybe wish you could, which is sad, but I mean, cool at the same time. And in the end of the day, it's just a competition, of course, but you know, you build this up in your head so much. You know, it's the biggest thing in the world. You should just feel like it's any other competition, but of course it's not. So you can't.
How the mental preparation, are there and were there any specific things that you went into besides from the physical training? Like what were practices outside of the lifting and the throwing?
I mean, with the javelin, it's quite a fun sport. Like most people think you only pro things like all day every day, and maybe some hours in the gym. But javelin, it's a very complex movement. Like because you're doing a sprint first or a sprint, but you're doing a running, and you running turns into like one step motions when you throw. So for being a good javelin thrower, you actually need to kind of have the whole package. Like you need to be able to keep a good stride when you run, very strong, powerful position. You of course need to be very balanced in your body, because if you're very strong in your upper body and weak in your lower body, like there will be the power transfer that comes when you actually putting the block foot down. It's going to be so bad, like nothing is going to happen. So everything has to be symmetrical all the time. So, and I mean, yes, some throwers are extremely powerful throwers, but they can't really use their run-up speed as much as they should do, because when they actually speed up, they can't handle the technique and they losing the throw. And some guys are maybe not so good physically, like strong, but they're having extremely good running speed, so they kind of get it out there instead. But if they could get the physical point also going with that running speed, you know, we're talking 8-10 meters, maybe perhaps further. So for the javelin to be a good thrower, you need to have the whole package, really. Seems weird, but and that's also what we train. You know, we do a lot of running, a lot of sprints, a lot of jumps, like throw a lot of med balls, different exercises. That's more like specific throws for javelin, and also, you know, more general for core stability. And of course we do the lifting too, like the classic bench pullovers, or you know, we do the Olympic lifting. So you kind of want to be as well trained through the whole body as you can, because it will help you for, like, most of all, it will help you to get through all the injuries, because javelin, it's a quite high impact sport. When you actually plant that foot, you know, we're talking weird angles with shoulders and elbows, like the bending ways it shouldn't really do. So it helps prevent those, and plus you can transfer the power better through your body. I don't know what your question was, but but I spilled that out.
Yeah, if we go into things that I think we could talk about for hours
Yeah,
is physical training and technique, and what will transfer into what exercises will help you, and the benefits and the angles and how it will transfer over. I'm following you completely. What my question was, like, when you go into like the Olympics, and there is such immense pressure on, you can be the most physically prepared, you can be in the best shape of your life, and you can have gotten several throws above 85 up to 90 meters, and but then you step into that arena or those days before, and you're just a nervous wreck. You don't know how to keep it together, and because everything is up here in your mind, and that starts taking over. Like, I know Kadri, your partner, she is, well, I can imagine, has maybe some tricks up her sleeve and some magic that she has helped you work on. But what are practices that you help prepare mentally? Maybe even, like, do you visualize? Do you meditate? What are practices like that do you go into to calm your nerves or get into state?
Yeah, so I mean, when in the younger age, when I kind of started to get into like the top level or whatever you say, like when I was in my young 20s, like I didn't do much at all. I kind of just went with the flow as usual, you know. But now when I'm getting a little older, like I realized how important it is to kind of be prepared in your mind, like because it will play tricks with you, even though you think you're cool as hell when it's actually time, but it will start acting up. So what I do is I always try to visualize the absolute perfect technical throw I can produce. Like I see myself doing this throw. I see myself taking my javelin. I see myself walking back to my marks in my run up. I see myself looking on the runway, just seeing where to throw the javelin, like where should I focus in the sky or on the audience on that side. And I see myself like just breathing. And when I start to run towards my marks, it's perfect, hit all the marks I can when I take the javelin back, and just try to be cool as possible to let my block leg down and then just let it happen. So I try to see myself doing the perfect throw. And normally what I do, I see it on my home track. I see myself doing it in my practice track at home. And then so every time I'm doing a throw, I kind of close my eyes and just visualize this moment and try to copy it every throw.
Do you have and one note there, the freaking simplicity you have and how simple it can be is just stunning and fascinating to me. Like because I've tried so many different things, and I'm always trying to perfect and tweak the perfect formula to prepare for anything, and usually it becomes so much that I'm like, like I wish I could just clear my head and feel like, oh, just do it. Like I feel like I'm at home and I do it, and I go into it. I'm like, yes, it can be
Yeah.
that simple.
But
And
of course,
yeah.
for me, like in everyday training, like in everyday life, I'm watching a huge amount of javelin, like on YouTube, and I'm watching myself. I pretty much film every throw I do. I look at all my throws. I see what is not good. I see what's good. And one thing I did before, I kind of focused on what's negative in the technique. Like I don't do this well, do this well. I started to little bit change that. I see what I'm doing great instead. I see that what I'm doing good in the technique, and of course it doesn't slip through my fingers what I don't do well, but I see myself doing these things really well all the time, and I start to hit them better and better. And I see also I'm looking at other people, like could be, I'm mostly looking at people that inspire me in the technique that I have, like as that I know do something really well, and I see what they're doing and I try to incorporate that into my technique. So it's a little bit, when I see myself doing this perfect throw, it's not always the things that I do. Like I take things from everywhere, like what I see, like, oh, this person do really well there, and then I just blend them in, so it's me when I do the throw. And I mean, why I think I do this is because it's the most simple thing, because this is what I do the most. I do these throws the most. So it's easiest for me to see that, because it kind of just, it's easy as walking for me, how to throw a javelin. It's very simple. So I guess that's why I'm thinking that way. And I don't want to make it more complicated than it is, because in the end of the day, it's just throw.
Wow. Coming back to Zen Master lines, and the simplicity just strikes me. Like there's a saying, chop wood, carry water. It's a simple thing, is what do you do with the most simple things in life, and how present are you with the most simple things in life? And really that's where you can say salvation or happiness or just being in an incredible state comes from. And what you're sharing there doing the same repetitive to what many from the outside to me looks like the same thing over and over and over again. Like you've done so many throws in your life. And for me, having sometimes a very short attention span and wanting a lot of playfulness and variety, I'm like, it's not playful. It's usually throwing the same thing over and over. Like, how can you be creative? Like, you can't play. But what I realized with age is that in itself can be the most incredible meditative state, and also it can be so much fun, because when you start slowing down and start paying attention to these small minute details, it becomes all of a sudden so fascinating. I've went from training, wanting to do a wide variety of training, to doing Olympic lifting only. I did that last year. I don't do it right now. But what happened with that, I would never want to do it before because, well, one, I was too tight because I was too proud. I was too much in the masculine. I would never wanted to stretch. So I could barely get my hands above my head because I was so freaking tight. So my jerk sucked, my snatch sucked, and I didn't have the patience. I didn't have the patience to follow the process. And I had too much ego to be coached at times. And I just wanted, I just want to brute force strong and what do you say? I wanted to lift the most weight, and then it became, it doesn't matter so much about the weight. And when I started letting go of more of the outcome and the result, that's when Olympic lifting really started being beneficial and working in my favor. As I focus on enjoying the process, focus on the small minute details. And the biggest thing, what you said, is watching the film. I haven't done that much with Olympic lifting, but that is something that's repeated over and over and over with especially American football. But it's something that is more practiced in my sales career, where they have you record yourself on a video, and then you just watch it, and then you need to do it on a regular basis as a training exercise, because it's the same thing. You start picking things up, and the more video you watch, like your mind now starts interpreting these, and you start becoming that. And the more you immerse yourself with it, the more that is just, now you've already practiced. Like you might not, there's this study where they had a certain amount of people do bicep curls for, I think it was over 30 days. And then they had a group of people who visualized doing bicep curls for 30 days, and they could feel it, and I can feel how their muscles were growing. And the fascinating fact was, the people who were visualizing it had more strength gains and grew bigger muscles than the people actually lifting the weights. And I'm just freaking blown away by that. Like, holy crap. Like the mind up here, like we can have such a significant impact on our body. And it can be so simple as watching video. And I remember doing that with basketball, watching NBA and learning all these things. And all of a sudden I feel myself doing it. Like, I never done this move ever in my life, and all of a sudden I'd done it for the first time, and it just worked out perfectly. I'm like, where did that come from? I never practiced it. And that's what it sounds like, what you were describing too with the videos, and what it does for you when you practice and when you throw.
Yeah. No, I think this is, I think this is one of the most important things actually in my training, that I'm watching videos. Like, most of all, I enjoying it. I enjoy looking at myself. Like I enjoy, because it's very interesting, because one feeling is what you have when you're doing something, and because you feel like you're doing a certain thing, and when you actually watch yourself doing that thing, it doesn't always, look the same as you feel. You feel like you're doing it absolutely perfect, and when you watch the video, you're like, what the fuck am I doing here?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's not even close what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
But when you watch this and you kind of try to, this is also one really cool thing, like if you something you're not doing so well, but you kind of try to exaggerate that thing, and it feels so weird when you're doing it, and then you watch the video and you're like, it actually looks good. Like, this is actually supposed to look this way, and then you just try to exaggerate it many times, and then suddenly, it starts to feel natural, which is quite cool. Then you suddenly have learned this new like movement, which is, like you said also, Like suddenly it just sits there. You just, what happened? And like you said in the Olympic lifting, like it's one big thing in my training also that I do this Olympic lifting. I always try to also take parallels between different movements I do. So in a let's say in the Olympic lifting, if I do a snatch, and if I just get the perfect hip position, like when the bar hit the hip and it goes up, this is pretty much exactly the same feeling I get when I get a perfect block when I want to throw. And when I can get this feeling from the lifting, then also I feel how I'm throwing at the same time, which is quite remarkable because you feel like what a power transfer you get going, and the timing is just there. So when you sometimes make a PB in like a snatch or a clean or something, like a weight that you're a little bit scared of, but somehow you get the technique going and you're just there because you're strong enough to get it. You just need to get everything in the right order to hit it right. And it's very interesting. And I think also this is one really good thing to always try to get parallels from different things you're doing in life into what you are, your profession kind of. And I don't know how you can do it in sales maybe, but in sport, if you take a lot of parallels from different, if you play other sports or, you're playing golf or whatever, like when you're hitting a great drive that you feel like your hip positioning moving the right way, and you just, this is exactly like when I'm throwing, this is the feeling I get, just slightly different.
Well, especially in sales, I can't speak to too many of the other professions, but what you can do is remember the feeling that you get when you master something, or when you close a sale, or when you have an amazing conversation with another client, or when you help someone. What does that feel like? Yeah. Remember that. And even what we did right now, what the exercise we did in the very beginning, I do that every hour, or that is my intention. So quite a few times a day. So when I remember that state, when I remember that feeling, that is something that will start presenting itself naturally in my life on a regular basis. So it's the same, and that is like playing a emotional movie in my body. So I draw that towards me, but also in my head or in my mind. The most powerful is when you do watch something. Like if you, what we would do is record ourselves delivering a pitch of the product or the service, and then we would tweak that depending on, and what you see. And I think this is incredible. You really see what truth and reality is. Like you can have this very strange notion of what reality is. I don't know how, maybe you do it in accounting. Maybe you remember, like you practice, okay, this is what my interaction is with the client and this is what I can deliver. It's very much analytical, but it's a client relationship at the end of the day. How do I carry these conversations? And just record yourself, because it will illuminate such sometimes devastating, but also very positive things. And I compare it a bit to lifting weights. Like if you do a squat, 100 kilos is always 100 kilos, regardless of how strong you are. And it will always be truth to you, regardless of how you feel. Once you get underneath that bar, you might feel shitty, but your mind thinks, oh, I'm the best, I'm the strongest, but the 100 kilos will always humble you and put you in your place. And the same is with the video. Regardless of how you feel, the video will always be the video, and it will show you things. Yeah. And I think it's a great practice of staying humble and just being honest.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's interesting.
Yeah, and it makes me realize it now, speaking to you, how we approach performance in very different ways. You're very much go with the flow and the simplicity of it, and I take it down all these different types of rabbit holes, and I go super deep, which can be interesting, but it's like, all right, well, what do I do with it now? I don't really know. What?
You overanalyze things.
Yes.
Yeah.
How, speaking of making things overcomplicated, when there are other people who are you're competing with, it doesn't have to be. It can be on the Swedish Olympic team, other athletes that you spend time with, or either other javelin throwers. when we talked about the preparation piece and the mental piece, what is it that you've experienced when it comes to what is it like to be around these athletes at such a high level? And when you go into these competitions, I know there's some bright sides, excitement, but there's also some of the most nerve-wracking and sometimes dark sides, like people don't know what to do with themselves, or people even quit like at the most important moments in their lives. Like what have you experienced during your time?
It's quite interesting. Like, for example, when a championship is over for someone, like when you have done your competition, how you take it after. Like for me, if it goes well, I'm extremely happy. Like I really enjoy that moment. But I'm also a little bit disappointed because I know I could have made it a little better. Something I could have made this better. And in some competition, of course, it doesn't matter. It just matters the value of the medal, kind of. But when you know, like if you don't, because I have never done it good in Olympics, sadly. Like I've never managed to keep it together there, which is horrible. But I'm always extremely confident when I go into those 2 times I've been in Olympics. Like I'm extremely confident. Like I'm pretty much know that I'm gonna win.
Nice.
Sounds weird, but no. But I'm like I really know, like because I'm in my best physical shape ever that I've ever been in. I know my technique is on point. I just need to get it going that day, and I haven't. I haven't made it in the Olympics. I've been in 3 World Championship finals and like done quite good there, but in Olympics I never made it good. But I'm very, 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 very disappointed after. But I'm disappointed for a day, and then I'm kind of just okay. I forget about it. I need to focus on the future now, like because why should I think about this that happened yesterday? It's not going to give me anything positive from it. I will take few things, try to find few things that went positive that day. But if it didn't go the way I wanted, I will just try to forget it and just focus on next thing. And I have good friends that completely dig themselves into the darkest hole you can imagine. Like they don't want to leave their room for a week. Like, and it's also, I think it's really tough for them. Like, of course it's tough for them, but every time you make a competition that doesn't go the way you want to, and you take it too hard, you're gonna start to get afraid of the moment that when you start to actually, what's the word? When you fail, like you start to get afraid of the moment to fail. Like you shouldn't be afraid to fail. You should always try to, of course, win everything you do, because if your mindset is not that you're gonna win it, why are you even there? It's just stupid to be there if you don't think you're gonna win it. That needs to be your mindset all the time. But if you're afraid of actual failure, like for some people, when they actually fail, they dig themselves so deep. And I actually see they quit after, like it goes 2 years and then they start quitting, and then they don't, because they're so afraid of failing that they don't find it anymore fun. Like I don't take it that hard. Yes, it's Olympics and that will be the biggest honor in my life to win. But at the same time, like there's other thousands people that are doing the same event as me, and they're trying as hard as I am doing. And I mean, what an actual journey to just be able to go to Olympics and be there and compete for your country. And what an honor, and actually what a fulfillment actually will feel in your life that you've actually achieved that dream. I mean, the Olympics is crème de la crème. It's the biggest thing you can do, and actually you should enjoy it, and you shouldn't be afraid of failing in the Olympics, because it will happen to everyone except one person who wins.
Yeah.
That one to achieve the goal. But like you said in the beginning, I always take everything kind of relaxed and go with the flow. And I actually think this is one of my biggest strengths, that I don't think that much. I just try to enjoy it. And if it doesn't work out that day, I don't try to be too beaten up about it, because it won't help me.
So when you feel like you're beating yourself up, or there's disappointment or shame coming up, what do you do? You just, oh, I recognize it. Well, okay, let me focus on something else now.
Of course not. No, but for me, for example, like I've been having extremely much pain, shoulder issues. I had 6 years that I've been dealing with my shoulder. That's kind of my Achilles heel, this my right shoulder. And I think for every athlete, there will be something in your body that is a little bit your weak point. And I think this is actually one thing that I take it quite relaxed, that I've actually went through it, because to fight for 6 years without getting the result you want to, but you feel like you know that you're better than you was last year physically and technically. You are getting there, but this pain is kind of in between, and actually keep on pushing until you actually may manage to go through it. It's not so many people that are doing it, because they're taking too hard on themselves all the time. Like they're fighting, and if you never get any reward from it, like you feel like an idiot. Like, why am I even doing this? I never get the break I need or the break I want. But for me, it always has been that I know that if I just keep on going, I will win over it. And and I think this is one thing it's actually good. Like, I don't know if it's stupid or not, but I think this is one good thing which not thinking too much. And I mean,
That's incredible.
Oh, I don't know. No, but because it's also there's also one thing that I don't want to feel, is that when I'm 50, I don't want to feel that I quit too early because I had an injury that I know I could maybe get a handle of. Like, I don't want to feel that I quit too early and don't know how good I could have been. I mean, I have gone through the toughest injury I've ever had to cope with, like my shoulder, and it dragged on for 6 years. And I'm not saying like it's 100% yet, because it's not. But I have now found a really good system how to deal with it when it starts to get overworked and so on, because it will. For every athlete, doesn't matter what sport, when you're pushing yourself to the limit all the time, you will fall over on the wrong line. Like, it will happen. And you just need to know where to pick up the signs when it's getting too far, and how to have a strategy, how to work so you can make it good again. Like, it will happen to anyone. If it doesn't happen to you, then you haven't pushed yourself hard enough. That's just how it is. But I didn't want to quit, because I know that I will be better. If I just keep on grinding, I will in the end I will win over it, and I will make a better result than I had prior to the injury. And I mean, prior to the injury, I did 84.50. That was my lifetime best. And this year I did 86.50. So, and last year was the first year I was injury free. And then I did my first 86 meter throw. So these two last years actually been the two best years of my career, like distance wise and also consistency wise. So this is also one great thing, to feel that I overcome this injury and just didn't give up. You don't want to give up.
It's amazing. Yeah, just how you keep going and how you keep on. I've seen you in with your game face on when you get locked in and when you are. I've seen you pissed off. Like I know where you can go and the ferocious beast of a man that you can become. And it's fascinating to know that how easily you can dial it back and still like, oh, well, it's just fun. And it's just a process and I can just enjoy every day. And I'm just going to take it every day, day by day, and I'm going to have fun and I'm going to enjoy it. And what you're, go ahead.
No. Continue. I'll say it often.
Yeah. So, and what you're saying with the other athletes, I can so much relate. And with the mental part of how you get yourself down so much and then you stop thinking it's fun because of your relationship with failure. And that was, I think that's really pinpointing it well, is what is your relationship with failure like for anyone who is a high performer? And so many high performers, when you create this standard that you're always going to perform at the top level, when you go into a new situation or start a new job or go into a competition and all of a sudden you're freaking humbled or you fail, like how do you deal with that? And I've looking back at my life, I've had a very hard time with it. Like I've had a very sensitive ego. Like I've had a big ego and it might not show, but when it's taken off the throne, I throw tantrums. Like I become a mess. And I have a very hard time with it. And it can lead to some extreme situations and even quitting things. And the interesting part is with the opposite side too. When you work so hard and so much for an event like the Olympics and you put everything you got and all of a sudden it ends. And so many people don't know, what do I do now? Like, what do I even do with my life? Because it's such a like jumping off from of the all-time high of your life, and all of a sudden, well, all right, now I'm back to gardening. Like, what the hell happened with my life? And the not so well, the dark side about it, even from Michael Phelps to Abby Wambach to they almost committed suicide. And it's not so well or much talked about is the darkness that came with, like, there's some of the most prestigious and well decorated. Well, Michael Phelps has won the most Olympic gold medals overall by far. And he considered committing suicide, taking his life, because he did not know what to do with himself when training or swimming was not part of it. And really goes around relationships and I mean more parts, not just that, but also the different chemical aspects and the mood swings that are being affected, but also what do you have left to live for? And so many people experience that when you've, for example, here in college here in the United States, when people stop playing sports and they go into professional life, they're like, what do I do? Like, my life just ended. And some people never recover from that, and they never get a job that they love or really like or enjoy, because they now are stuck in the past of, this used to be, these are my glory days. Yeah. And I don't have anything to live for anymore. An example of that in Sweden is Mikael Ljungberg, who was the most decorated Olympic wrestler, and he stopped and he became a coach, but he ended up committing suicide too. And for so many, and I've experienced, and we'll see how much we go into this, but my dark sides too of when I failed, when I've pushed myself and my identity becomes so wrapped up in my work that I've been close to leaving my family because it was so incredibly difficult. But being so wrapped up in this identity of high performance and I'm failing, and then and really what brought me back to really reality was death. Like, it had to hit me so hard that someone had to die, and or something so radically had to happen for me to really snap out of it and understand, like, what the fuck am I doing? because I was so entrenched and so worked up into my identity needing to be performing at the top level. And if I don't, then nothing else matters. And you get so locked into if I just get this next step, if I just get this next centimeter, inch, or next number, then I'll be happy, or then I'll feel better. And you become manic about it. And I know so many people at a high level, whether that be professional or athletes, they function like that. And that's what they've gotten so good at what they do is they always push themselves to that edge. And when you can fall over, you get injured or you fail, and that's fine. But when you radically get put in your chair and like you freaking failed, like you fell off your chair, you thought you were gonna freaking be at top of the mountain, and you only got to sit on the chair. like what just happened? Like how? I don't know what comes up for you when I start talking about all this.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like of course after of the career, like of the sport, I still don't know what I'm gonna do, you know, like, and it has also been kind of an active choice to not think of it, because I haven't studied college, I haven't studied in university or something now, like some courses, because also it takes focus, you know, to study. Or I've always been working, you know, but like these last 2 years, I don't work anymore. I just do sports to really, because I know I'm gonna have like four more solid years. I will do Olympics in Tokyo next year, and I will do Paris. Like this is what I'm gonna push for. Because after that, I'm 34 then, and I don't think I would like to push for 4 more years, because also like then you start to get old, and fuck, there's so many youngsters coming up then gonna kick my ass, you know. But then I also feel like, you know, I've really made the most of my career. Like I've really achieved everything. The only thing now is to win, to take medals, you know. But otherwise I've reached the highest top, and you know, I've done everything with sport. But of course, like this is one scary thing to think about, you know, the afterlife after sports, or what do you say? But like I said, also it's been an active choice to not go into it at this moment, because you know I'm a little bit afraid if I now take a job that I would really love to do, or study something that will draw my attention away from the sport, which I would love to put 100% into at the moment. So it's a risky, yes, it is, but at the same time, it's also a little bit exciting to not knowing what's going to happen in the future. Because I'm sure, like, I'm a very dedicated person to what I dedicate myself to do. So I'm sure that when I'm actually quitting the sport and start to focus on something else, I'm sure I will find a passion for it. Something I would start loving that instead, because then I'm done with this chapter in my life with sports, like professional sports. And of course, it's really hard. It's really sad and hard to hear, you know, guys like Michael Phelps, you know, who's probably one of the most inspiring persons in the world, in history, you know, to even have felt these feelings, because this is feelings I've never felt in my life, of course. But sometimes I think it's a little bit like the end goal is of course important, but sometimes I think also you just need to appreciate the journey. Like the end goal would of course be to be world record holder, Olympic champion, European champion, world champion, you know, everything like this. But also sometimes you just need to get a reality check and just enjoy what you actually, the journey that has been, you know. Like for me, when I've had a really tough year, like I haven't achieved the goals I wish to do, maybe not 100% in physical shape, like when I had issues with my shoulder, but I still managed to go to the championships, for example, but I hadn't done the best results I wanted to do. But sometimes I think like, okay, I'm traveling the world to do the thing I love to do the most and get paid for it. Fucking weird is that? Like I get to travel to China and throw javelin in a huge stadium filled with 60,000 people cheering for me. Like I met my love of my life through this sport, which I have a child with and having a second one coming. Like I build a house and living in it. Like how amazing is that? Like sometimes you just need to think about the small things and think about other people. You know, they may be stuck at a job that they don't like, or they're living a normal life, and maybe I'm not the most rich person in the world, like financially, but with experience and with emotions, I'm probably one of the richest ones. It's you know, this is the things I think of when I've had a really tough year. Like when I sit back like around New Year's Eve, Christmas time, and just think about it, then I just, okay, it's actually happened a few cool things this year. Or I did this, or, you know, we experienced this, or I met that person, or it's something that is quite interesting. And I was thinking about you also, like, for example, when you were saying that you got so into one job, and, you know, and then you suddenly failed at it, or, you know, you didn't go the way you wanted to go. But also, you know, imagine when we went to high school together, you know, you took this first step to go to States to try to play basketball. And then you realize, like, shit, these guys are crazy. Then you change your direction and went into another direction, you know, with full on throttle into that. And then you realize, okay, this is not awesome. And then you change direction again. And I mean, this is quite cool. Like you travel to the other side of the world to pursue a dream. And now you have met love of your life. You have a child together, and you have your own home. And, you know, there's things you always should appreciate with the journey, even if you maybe haven't reached that end goal yet. But it's things that you should think about and be very proud of.
I'm taking a moment just to take that all in. Thank you. Thank you for just being who you are, and thank you for expressing it in just that simple way. I'm just receiving it, and it's being very illuminated. And what memories keeps coming back to me is how when we spent time, I don't know, 11, 12 years, 13 years ago, how I would always go down these rabbit holes and talk about things. You're like, more or less, Seba, snap out of it. Let's just enjoy this. I'm like, I don't want to. I want to talk about this. No. And that's what it comes to right now too. And just coming back to gratitude, like you're freaking right. What you were talking about before. Not being worried, and I think that is one of the things, trying to figure things out and being worried. And there's this saying by Joseph Campbell, if you know all the steps of the path you're on, it's not your path, it's not your road, it's not your direction, it's someone else's. Because, well, just how do you let life unfold in the way it's supposed to, or just be curious and just live life right now, and it will unfold the way it will unfold. And looking back and my life, feeling like I needed to prove so much, with doing everything in a short amount of time than anyone else, like with college, the bachelor's, and then the master's, and then with everything with getting promotions in jobs and earning so much money, like. Yeah, it was satisfying to a degree, and it was cool to prove to myself and others that, yeah, I could do it. But I take enjoyment, like what you're doing, any day over all those freaking achievements. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, I'd rather have fun in my life. Like, looking back at it, like, when you're saying and you're thinking about, like, college, I'm like, how much does that really matter? Like, I don't know. Like, if I would have followed my passion or followed what is true to me, I'm sure I would have been amazing at whatever I do. The main thing is just it's up in your head. Like, we set these mental limitations on ourselves. You don't need freaking college to be successful. But the biggest thing I got from it was just different ways of thinking.
I mean, like you said, you know, this is college, for example. It's in a something really amazing to get a degree, you know, to have achieved that. That's amazing. It doesn't mean anything actually to have this degree. Of course, in certain profession, you kind of required to have some. If you're a doctor, you kind of hope that someone have not done an internet course on it, or you know, or you're a lawyer or whatever. But I mean, this is something, and you know, since we were young, you know, I regard you as one of my closest friends, you know, like you. And one thing I always love, because you're always extremely humble to everything. You're extremely dedicated to everything. And when you actually put your mind to do anything, you can do anything. And this is, like, I'm just thinking back, you know, when we went to Gotland in your house there, you know, and you were quite, yeah, I'm not drinking, you know, this is not my thing, you know, I'm gonna be great in sport. And you were drinking your Red Bull or was it grape? There was some basketball player who was drinking some
oh yeah, like cranberry juice and Red Bull.
Cranberry juice and Red Bull. And we were out to like the hottest nightclubs, and you were drinking this, and everyone else got shit faced. And then I was thinking, like, we're like 18 years old, like, or maybe even, yeah, we were 18 years old. Like, and sometimes I feel like you just need to let it go, like just have some fun. But you were very dedicated to being extremely physically in shape, perfect all the time. So, and I mean, that's also one thing that is so incredible with you. Like when you put your mind to something, there's nothing that's going to stop you. Nothing.
So now I think that's a good transition of stepping into what we talked a little bit about, the age. With age, I realized even though I can't do the freaking things that I used to do, if I constantly charge forward, I've run through so many walls that I've taken and beat myself up so much that my body can't take what it used to take, because it's been through so much, and I've realized what it also takes me. Like it's less forgiving than it used to be, and especially being a husband, but more so a father. The time that I used to have to ferociously do things also had a negative effect on relationships, and especially as a father, I've needed to step into a very patient side, a very thoughtful side, and I've let go of quite a few of the things that I personally wanted to do. And I think it'll be fascinating to hear when you're speaking of Tokyo and Paris, and you have your second child on the way, and kudos to you for being able to be able to just have that single mind focusedness of just Javelin is my everything. How do you're still a father, you're still a husband, you're a partner, like you have your you have Kadri, and you have a second child now on the way. How do you feel that? Do you still feel like you have that inner drive? Do you still feel like you're able to harness the same type of energy and the same type of drive? As I'm feeling, the older I get, the less competition matters to me. And I'll draw one example. Is the weights. A few years ago, I was all about lifting the heaviest weights and wasn't being the best at everything when it comes to sales, being number one. And now I'm down to kettlebell training and more or less minimalist training. I'm down to gymnastics, and a lot of it is slow movement, and a lot of it is just doing similar things, repeating. Muscle mass is not as important. It's more about the process that's important, and am I having fun doing it? So what is that process like for you, like being a father and having different responsibilities and mixing that with being at such a top level athlete and still having such high expectations and wanting to achieve them?
Yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing. You can't even imagine how it's going to be to be a father. Like you don't know the the things, because you can't really prepare yourself for how it's going to be. And of course, like it takes a lot of time, of course, to always be with be with your child, and to raise her and or him. But first of all, I have a really very, very amazing partner who is very understandable and really supportive of the sports. And she's a manager herself, so she's been in the sport business for quite a long time, and she knows how important it is to me, and for us, of course. Like this one of the things why she liked me, of course, because that's how we met, being an athlete. But of course, but I thought when I became a father, like it kind of gave me another dimension to things. I took it even more relaxed things. No, but because sometimes, if you've had a shit day at the track, like, or at a competition or in the gym or whatever, like you didn't achieve the things you wanted to achieve in the training or in your competition, and you were really down for it, and you really, not in a good mood. But when you come home and see her, like your little daughter or son or whatever you have, in my case it's a daughter, you kind of forget about that old stuff. You just okay, that is not the most important thing in the world. This is like to just be with her and enjoying her company. And it kind of also gives you different perspective on life, of course, what's important and what your values are. But it also kind of gets you humbled to the sport, that it's possible to do it, to just to be able to do this both things at the same time. A lot of athletes are really scared for becoming parents when they're in their active careers, and I understand them. I was also very scared for it, but what I think now is that it's just kind of gave me something else, gave me more energy, even though it maybe sleepless nights sometimes with crying and so on, but it kind of gives you a different dimension to life, which is cool. It's like a different purpose. It's also because sport has always been my baby. This has been the most important thing in my life, and suddenly I have a human baby, which is suddenly getting more important than the sport. Then you a little bit more take it as fun, because it is very competitive and it's very serious in everything, but a little bit you take it a little more with a klackspark. Now you take it a little more with a little more chill still, and just enjoying every day you have with the sport. But yeah, I mean, she's not so old. She's not even turning 2 yet, so it's been quite easy in the start. But I guess now with 2 kids, it's going to be even more time going in. But it's I think in the end of the day, you need to have a partner that really understands the commitment you do. And it's not like I'm not committed to the family. It's not that. I mean, to be an athlete is actually quite nice, because you're in training for a certain amount of hours a day, but the other times you're at home, chilling with them, just hanging out, enjoying, and then you go to practice again and so on. But I mean, you still have a lot of time, of course. And for me, like I've never been a person to go to training camps all the time. Like it's never been something I really enjoy. Like certain times, yes, you need to go, and it's also very fun to get the change of scenery. But I'm not a person that goes away and be away for 3 months, especially not now when I have a child. Like that would never work. I love home too much. Like I enjoy my home way too much to be away. So yeah, but I mean, like it is, sometimes it's just life just happens. So sometimes you don't really think so much. It happens, but somehow you still manage to do it,
And when you're speaking of, I feel like part of it is almost like a Sami way, so the indigenous people up north type of way. You have that about you, and why I'm saying that is it's being down to earth, it's being very present in the moment, and it's taking every day as the day comes. Here in and as the longer I've been in the United States, the more I've become less humble, and you become more humble, and it's interesting, very interesting to see and feel how this is coming up, how I've become. So results are everything, especially here in the United States, and you're constantly measured by your performance, and there's very much, and this is part of the company and the podcast too, is performance addiction, and how you get so wrapped up in it. And what you described with your daughter, I had the opposite experience. For me, I had an identity crisis to a degree when I had my daughter, because I'm like, I can't spend the amount of time that I used to performing, and I can't perform the way I used to do or be. And for me, a lot of it was just, I need to put in a certain amount of hours, and I need to always be on. I need to always be, for me, it was listening to several podcasts or an audiobook or always doing something. And I couldn't do that. And now a lot with time, I've realized, okay, the more stillness I'm in, the more I can just be. Like, there's so many other lessons that I can learn, not even about me, but the more I let go of just all the outcomes and the results, the more things starts coming to me. And for me, I had a hard time, what you said, now you think it with a clock spark, it's not as serious what you were saying, the Swedish expression of javelin throwing. And for you to say that and be at the level that you're at, I think that speaks volumes of that family is such of importance to you. For me, it was almost became as a hindrance to it, and I had, like, through, you could say, identity turn in terms of like, oh, this is not fair, I can't perform like I do, and I created a lot of turmoil and a lot of hurt and failure, not failure, but a lot of hurt and a lot of pain for me and people around me, because I didn't really know how to deal with not being this top level achiever. And for you, you're like, this is the best thing that ever happened. Like, this is amazing. And now can I be even more chill and have even more fun?
Yeah,
And
but a little bit. I think sometimes, like, yes, if you're very goal oriented, and you want to achieve everything, and you're so focused on something, you a little bit you get very narrow minded. You see this tunnel vision all the time, and when you get another perspective of life, like, for example, you become a father, or you have a partner, if you've been single and suddenly you get a partner, and you start to kind of broaden your horizons a little bit, you start to actually find things from different ways that you can actually incorporate with what your tunnel vision was towards before. So you can little bit, you can also, like you said, you can take inspirations from other ways. And I think this is one thing that's is good when she came, that, like, for example, like, it's been, because I think like I said before, like, failure is really tough to cope with. And for some people that doesn't achieve the same thing in a competition that they wish to do, and they take this so hard that they get depressed, and like they feel things they shouldn't really feel. But when you feel that, and then you come home to your family and see your family, then you're like, okay, this is actually not as important as I think it is. And I mean, if you don't make the number one sales that month, like, you became second or third or fourth or fifth or whatever, but as long as your family at home, you're providing for them, and they're happy to see you, and I mean, not much else matters, actually. I think.
I'm at a loss for words. I mean, it's the simplest thing, but it's the most wisdom that ever can be spoken. And I think in today's day and age, when there's so many different opinions, there's more TV watching than ever before. There's more social media. There's more being stuck on your screen, and you just tying it back to, well, as long as my family's happy, I'm happy.
Yeah. No, but of course,
That's freaking incredible.
no, because I think, of course, like, to be a javelin thrower, it's not the best way to get rich, I can tell you. Like you don't live the financial life maybe that you wish to have, but I know that when I'm finished with sport and I actually try going into do a real job, I will have good success in that, and then I can achieve the financial goals I have there. So a little bit, I think it has its time. Everything has its time, and yeah, I don't know. Like, fuck, it's hard to explain. It's hard to think that way. And of course, like, you shouldn't take everything too serious. I think it's not good.
Yeah.
I know. That's the thing. Like, also, like, in Sweden, it's it's a little more relaxed here than it is in States. We have a comfort net around us, which is completely different here than it is in States. There's a lot of benefits, in Sweden, like with healthcare and so on. And of course, I understand that the better position you are at work, the more safe you are. Like, you have better insurance, you have better, you higher up on the waiting list for certain things. So I think, of course, in the States, it's a very competitive market, and everyone have a very competitive mind in general. But yeah, that's also kind of what leads to being a little depressed sometimes.
Yes, and I can say that firsthand for sure. Yeah, it takes a toll on you, and yeah, it has. What I tell people usually, what's the difference between the United States and Sweden? I say that the beauty about the United States is such a wide spectrum of, this is a huge, like, round circle, and you can experience the most extreme from the very best to the extreme of the very worst, and poverty, and everything in between, and you have so much opportunity, and just, there's so many things to explore, and there's so many adventures. But it's so easy, like, if you go down the wrong path, and if you don't have family, if you don't have anyone around you, it can be a very empty place. It can be a very lonely place. It can be a very challenging, dark place. So there's, and that's the beauty and the beast to it. Sweden is very comfortable. It's very much, you live in a very comfortable range. It's not like extremely incredible, and it's not extremely bad. It's very much, everyone has a pretty good life, and then you can have an incredible life too, but it's more it's simpler. It's more, all right, everyone is taken care of, and the older I get, the more I appreciate that. More I appreciate, well, okay, it was fun having a rather extreme journey of performance for 10 years, but I am ready for a chapter where, yeah, that's fun, but how do I integrate some of these things of enjoying life on a day-to-day and still being able to perform? Like, it doesn't need to be my everything. And the more I'm attached to it, and the more I let go of it, and the more I just realize it's fun, the better my life becomes. But I know, especially here in Silicon Valley, when everyone never really shuts off, and you have some of the biggest companies like Google and Facebook, and the list goes on, you have these like exceptional people, like some of the brightest minds ever, like, just that are out there, and coming across these people and the drive they have, you start to constantly start comparing, or I compare myself all the time, and, oh, what are they doing? How should I be doing? And I don't shut off, and it just becomes this game of never stopping. Like, one of the things that had happened is I would see it as a competitive advantage or an edge to, oh, there's a holiday. Well, maybe I can get some working then, so I can just get ahead a little bit more, or be a little bit better. And that the toll is your family. The toll is your happiness and your enjoyment of life. And eventually it builds up. And that's really the whole purpose of the Safina Code, is bringing awareness and bringing a different perspective. And I think you are such an incredible, and your stories is such incredible testament to, you can have and be a high performer and just have a simple, easy, comfortable, just enjoy your freaking life. Like, you don't have to have these amounts of money or a title or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. And having been taken and gone to high levels and done it very quickly, it didn't freaking bring me, like, it brought me experiences, it brought me memories. But I wish the biggest thing I would have done differently is enjoy it more and just take it in more, and not just constantly be living in the past or living in the future or analyzing what I need to do next, and never really being in the moment.
A little bit the same, as I said with Olympics, when someone asks, how was it? He's like, I don't know. I don't remember, because you're so focused when you're there. It's so when you look back on it, you don't really, exactly, you didn't really enjoy it the same way maybe that you thought you're gonna do, which is strange, because that was your goal, that was it, but you're so focused on what you're doing at this moment, and I want to go further. So I understand that, absolutely. Doesn't matter what profession you're in. I think if you have a competitive mind, that's what it's gonna do.
Kim really put me at ease. This reassurance that, hey, give it your all and have fun. There's so many people out there doing so many different things, and the same thing as you too. Don't fret about it. Don't get all worked up about it. Focus on you. Focus on the experience and be present for it. Let go of everything else. It's okay to fail and learn from it. I am so grateful that Kim came on and that we could have this conversation. If you want to connect with him, even check out some of his highlights, go to YouTube, right? I mean, even if you might have seen him in the Olympics here in Tokyo. All the links to his social media is in the show notes. So check him out. Until next time, send you so much love.